Alright, welcome back to DJ's Chronicles. I am going to be picking up where I left off with The Human All Too Human by Mr. Frederick Nietzsche. This is, of course, continuing with the history of the moral feeling. It's going to be picking up with part 58 on down until I decide to stop. What can be promised? Actions can be promised, but not feelings, for these are involuntary. Whoever promises somebody to love him always, or to hate him always, or to be ever true to him, promises something that it is not of his power to bestow. But he really can promise such courses of conduct as are the ordinary accomplishments of love, of hate, of fidelity, but which may also have their source in motives quite different. For various ways and motives lead to the same conduct. The promise to love someone always means, consequently, as long as I love you, I will manifest the deportment of love. But if I cease to love you, my deportment, although from some other motive, will be just the same. So that, to the people about us, it will seem as if my love remained unchanged. Hence, it is the continuance of the deportment of love that is promised in every instance in which eternal love, provided no element of self-deception be involved, is sworn. 59. Intellect and Ethic. One must have a good memory to be able to keep the promises one makes. One must have a strong imagination in order to feel sympathy. So closely is ethics connected with intellectual capacity. 60. Desire for vengeance and vengeance itself. To meditate revenge and attain it is tantamount to an attack of fever that passes away. But to meditate revenge without possessing the strength or courage to attain it is tantamount to suffering from a chronic malady or poisoning of body and soul. Ethics, which takes only the motives into account, rates both cases alike. People generally estimate the first case as the worst because of the consequences which the deed of vengeance may entail. Both views are short-sighted. 61. Ability to wait. Ability to wait is so hard to acquire that great poets have not disdained to make inability to wait the central motive of their poems. So Shakespeare in Othello, Sophocles in Ajax, whose suicide would not have seemed to him so imperative had he only been able to cool his ardor for a day, as the oracle foreboded. Apparently, he would then have repulsed somewhat the fearful whispers of distracted thought, and have said to himself, who has not already, in my situation, mistaken a sheep for a hero? Is it so extraordinary a thing? On the contrary, it is something universally human. Ajax should thus have soothed himself. Passion will not wait. The tragic element in the lives of great men does not generally consist in their conflict with time, and the inferiority of their fellow men, but in their inability to put off their work for a year or two. They cannot wait. In all duels, the friends who advise have but to ascertain if the principals can wait. If this be not possible, a duel is rational, inasmuch as each of the combatants may say, either I continue to live and the other dies instantly, or vice versa. To wait in such circumstances would be equivalent to the frightful martyrdom of enduring dishonor in the presence of him responsible for the dishonor. And this can easily cost more anguish than life is worth. 62. Glutting revenge. Coarse men who feel a sense of injury are in the habit of rating the extent of their injury as high as possible, and of stating the occasion of it in greatly exaggerated language, in order to be able to feast themselves on the sentiments of hatred and revenge thus aroused. 63. Value of disparagement. Not a few, perhaps, of the majority of men, in order to retain their self esteem and a certain uprightness in conduct, to mentally disparage and belittle all the people they know. But as the inferior natures are in the majority, and as a great deal depends upon whether they remain or lose this uprightness, so 64. The man in rage. We should be on our guard against the man who is enraged against us, as against one who has attempted our life. For the fact that we still live consists solely in the inability to kill. Were looks sufficient, it would have been all up with us long since. To reduce anyone to silence by physical manifestations of savagery, or by a terrorizing process, is a relic of under civilization. So, too, that cold look which great personages cast upon their servitors is a remnant of the caste distinction between man and man, a specimen of rude antiquity. Women, the conservers of the old, have maintained this survival, too, more perfectly than men. 65. Whither honesty may lead. Someone once had the bad habit of expressing himself, upon occasion, and with perfect honesty, on the subject of the motives of his conduct, which were as good or as bad as the motives of all men. He aroused first disfavor, then suspicion, became gradually of ill repute, and was pronounced a person of whom society should beware, until at last the law took note of such a perverted being, for reasons which usually have no weight with it, or to which it closes its eyes. lack of taciturnity concerning what is universally held secret, and an irresponsible predisposition to see what no one wants to see, oneself, brought him to prison and to early death. 66. Punishable, not punished. Our crime against criminals consists in the fact that we treat them as rascals. 67. Sancta simplicitas of virtue. Every virtue has its privilege. For example, that of contributing its own little bundle of wood to the funeral pyre of one condemned. 68. Morality and consequence. Not alone the beholders of an act generally estimate the ethical or unethical elements in it by the results. No, the one who performed the act does the same, for the motives and the intentions are seldom sufficiently apparent, and amid them the memory itself seems to become clouded by the results of the act, so that a man often ascribes the wrong motives to his acts, or regards the remote motives as the direct ones. Success often imparts to an action all the brilliance and honor of good intention, while failure throws a shadow of conscience over the most estimable deeds. Hence arises the familiar maxim of the politician: give me only success. With it, I can win all the noble souls over to my side, and make myself noble even in my own eyes. In like manner, will success prove an excellent substitute for a better argument. To this very day, many well-educated men think the triumph of Christianity over Greek philosophy is a proof of the superior truth of the former, although in this case it was simply the coarser and more powerful that triumphed over the more delicate and intellectual. As regards superiority of truth, it is evident that because of it, the reviving sciences have connected themselves point for point with the philosophy of Epicurus, while Christianity has, point for point, recoiled from it. 69. Love and justice. Why is love so highly prized at the expense of justice? And why are such beautiful things spoken of the former as if it were a far higher entity than the latter? Is the former not palpably a far more stupid thing than the latter? Certainly, and on that very account, so much the more agreeable to everybody. It is blind, and has a rich horn of plenty out of which it distributes its gifts to everyone, even when they are unmerited, even when no thanks are returned. It is impartial, like the rain, which, according to the Bible and experience, wets not alone the unjust, but In certain circumstances, the just as well, and to their skin at that. 70. Execution. How comes it that every execution causes us more pain than a murder? It is in the coolness of the executioner, the painful preparation, the perception that here a man is being used as an instrument for the intimidation of others. For the guilt is not punished, even if there be any. This is ascribable to the teachers, the parents, the environment, in ourselves, not in the murderer. I mean the predisposing circumstances. 71. Hope. Pandora brought the box containing evils and opened it. It was the gift of the gods to men, a gift of most enticing appearance externally, and called the box of happiness. Whereupon all the evils, living, moving things, flew out. From that time to the present, they fly about and do ill to men by day and night. One evil only did not fly out of the box. Pandora shut the lid at the behest of Zeus, and it remained inside. Now man has this box of happiness perpetually in the house, and congratulates himself upon the treasure inside of it. It is at his service. He grasps it whenever he is so disposed, for he knows not that the box which Pandora brought was a box of evils. Hence, he looks upon the one evil still remaining as the greatest source of happiness. It is hope. Zeus intended that man, notwithstanding the evils oppressing him, should continue to live and not rid himself of life, but keep on making himself miserable. For this purpose, he bestowed hope upon man. It is, in truth, the greatest of evils, for it lengthens the ordeal of man. 72. Degree of moral susceptibility unknown. The fact that one has or has not had certain profoundly moving impressions and insights into things, for example, an unjustly executed, slain, or martyred father, a faithless wife, a shattering, serious accident, is the factor upon which the execution of our passions to white heat principally depends, as well as the course of our whole lives. No one knows to what lengths circumstances, sympathy, emotion may lead him. He does not know the full extent of his own susceptibility. Wretched environment makes him wretched. It is, as a rule, not the quality of our experience, but its quantity, upon which depends the development of our superiority or inferiority from the point of view of good and evil. 73. The martyr against his will. In a certain movement there was a man who was too cowardly and vacillating ever to contradict his comrades. He was made use of in every emergency. Each sacrifice was demanded of him because he feared the disfavor of his comrades more than he feared death. He was a petty, abject spirit. They perceived this, and upon the foundation of the qualities just mentioned, they elevated him to the altitude of a hero, and finally even of a martyr. Although the cowardly creature always inwardly said no, he always said yes with his lips. Even upon the scaffold, where he died for the tenets of his party. For beside him stood one of his old associates, who so domineered him with look and word that he actually went to his death with the utmost fortitude, and has ever since been celebrated as a martyr and exalted character. 74. General Standard. One will rarely err if extreme action be ascribed to vanity, ordinary actions to habit, and mean actions to fear. 75. Misunderstanding of virtue. Whoever has obtained his experience of vice in connection with pleasure, as in the case of one with a youth of wild oats behind him, comes to the conclusion that virtue must be connected with self-denial. Whoever, on the other hand, has been very much plagued by his passions and vices, longs to find in virtue the rest and peace of the soul. That is why it is possible for two virtuous people to misunderstand one another wholly. 76. The ascetic. The ascetic makes out of virtue a slavery. Now I wonder what that could mean. Anyway, thank you so much for watching DJ's Chronicles, and I really hope someone enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe, and I guess I'll be out of here. I'm still trying to figure out exactly what he meant, but I'm pretty sure I have a good idea of it. And he wasn't speaking complete madness. Most of that made sense. But, yeah, see you next time. Thanks.